It's really about building coalitions and systems building to make sure we as a community have the right supports and enough supports to support job seekers and also employers.
How do you see the city as it relates to the workforce development organization connecting and working with like the school system to train more people, like similar ideas with the HVAC and things like that?
But we started with one project with the city of Charlotte, essentially helping them manage like a $3 million ARPA grant. We then partner with Urban League and Goodwill here in Charlotte to essentially help them use that $3 million to stand up HVAC training programs so that we could create those trainings free of charge for residents that were negatively affected by COVID.
You are listening to the Global CTE podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome to another episode of the Global CTE podcast. I'm your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where I interview the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, and the innovators. Today is no different. I have my good friend, Greg Schermbeck here. And let me tell you about Greg. Greg is the founder and principal of SchermCo, as well as the founder of the Shermco Foundation, a national social impact implementation firm that partners with schools and mission-driven organizations to drive equity and outcomes in underserved communities. Through services like strategic advising, family empowerment, workforce development, and data-driven corporate social responsibility, Greg and his team are helping to create sustainable change at the systems level. Greg's a former teacher, school leader, and Teach for America alum. He brings both on-the-ground experience and a visionary lens to his work. He's also the host of the Square Pizza podcast. Make sure you check that out, where he amplifies the voices of leaders of color making a difference across the country. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man? I need you to do all my intros. That's I don't know if I deserved all that, but I liked it. I appreciate it.
No, man, I'm super excited to have you on the pod. I've experienced your work firsthand. I watch how you move. I love that your strategic thinking at a high level that really carries down to to the boots on the ground level to create that transformational change. We had the chance to work together with you and your company with the work I do with Samantha and Show Me the World project, and I've been a fan ever since. And Show Me the World has been winning ever since. So thanks to you and the team.
Happy to play a super small role, but congrats to you and the team and all the kids that get to experience the great work you guys do. It's been awesome. Kudos to you guys for all the growth you've had.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Before we get into, all the amazing things you have going on today, I would love to hear the origin story, man. How do you get here?
Yeah. Intentionally, I would say. Quick origin story, and feel free to cut me off or ask any follow-up. But I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, the world's, maybe the greatest city of all time, maybe not. Unless you're from there, then you get that joke. But grew up, which I think is relevant to kind of the story and what we'll talk about. I grew up in a trailer park with my parents and my brothers until we were in fourth grade. Mom and dad didn't go to school or college, but really sacrificed and talked about the importance of education to me and our family growing up. And so that was, I think, relevant to a lot of what we'll talk about today. So I was fortunate to then go to school, played football at the College of Worcester. I'll spare Sam any football jokes from Hiram and all that. But at the same time, was able to go to school, play football, fast forward, Teach for America in Charlotte. Went to Nashville, helped open a charter school in an under-resourced area in Nashville, Tennessee. Went to grad school, had a number of experiences there that shaped me, and then essentially didn't love any job opportunities that I had after grad school. The job opportunities I wanted told me to kick rocks. And then so SchermCo began with one project, and then fortunately 10 years and 8 months later, we're still going.
I like it, man. Give me, I didn't know that you came from Toledo. I don't know if I'm an Ohio State guy, so I have.
That's right. Go Bucks, baby. Big year
yes,
for the Buckeyes.
Yes,
big
year. I have a lot of friends who are from Toledo, from my time in Columbus. I'm curious, one piece of wisdom or something that helps shape your success today that you carry with you from your childhood growing up in Toledo.
I think persistence and kindness is what I would say.
Can you say more on that?
Sure. Toledo, at least to me, is a great city, but a very blue collar city, and is, a little tough, and you got to work for it. But I went to traditional public schools, worked at Wendy's in high school, cut grass in high school, caddied in high school. But I think a lot of the stuff that worked and didn't work in Toledo and growing up was about persistence. I played sports, football, baseball, basketball. And so all that was important to me, and all the lessons learned during sports, which very much was about persistence. You don't win every game. You got to get up and get your butt to practice the next day and do your homework and get your shit done and everything else. And so I think that is basic and simple as it is a good philosophy that has guided me in my leadership. And then on the kindness tip, Toledo's also pretty diverse, at least where I grew up, particularly in the trailer park and particularly with all my sports teams. And so a number of different people from a number of different cultures and backgrounds, and being curious about them, being curious about their families, being kind to them, and receiving kindness and curiosity back to me, I think are things that get overlooked, particularly now, and particularly in the social impact work that we do together. So if we've had any success, I would chalk it up to persistence and kindness.
That's good, man. That's good. I think I really enjoy asking those questions around the origin story to see how our early years fuel or shape us, or some piece of wisdom from grandmother, or or something that you still take with you today, man. So it makes a lot of sense in the work that you do. I can tell you really have the heart for it. Talk about the transition though, like you said, from grad school and then SchermCo was developed. What was that insight or that moment that kind of sparked that transition from you working in education to helping launch your own organization?
Yeah, it was a few things, personally, I've told this story before. My dad had worked, he came straight out of high school. My dad actually finished college. He got his bachelor's 2 years after I got mine. So dad mom and dad, but both sacrificed and saved up so we could go. And then once the kids were out, he went back to school and finished his bachelor's, which he doesn't talk about, but I think that's really important. So that was happening. He had really been at the same company for 25 years. They got bought. And then a few months later, he got laid off. Just didn't do anything wrong, just downsized. Seeing him go through that and kind of being subjected to that was really painful for me, and I think our whole family. Secondly, I was essentially promised a position in the current school, or CMO that I was working at during grad school, that then merged with a larger organization. And then somebody in that organization told me I was not going to get that position within a 2-month time span of getting it. Stop looking for jobs, not getting it anymore. So I was pretty pissed. That's why persistence is important. And then at the same time, we hired consulting firms, both at that school, and also in grad school, I was taking a consulting 101 course. Okay. And so much of what I learned in those experiences was in the consulting class and in real life experience, the people we hired were just giving us advice, but not actually helping us do anything. Okay. And that felt criminal to me, particularly with how much we were giving them, financially at the moment. And to me, it felt from my experience being in classrooms and schools, we didn't really need advice. We didn't need people telling us what we needed to do. We needed capacity. We needed money to hire more people, but we didn't really need so much just advice. And so kind of all those experiences combined felt like there was at least an opportunity to not just do coaching, not just do kind of consulting, but really help with capacity building, really be focused on implementation, particularly in this social equity and social impact space. And so that was really just the theory of change, my selfish experiences. Then I think what I learned through teaching and through launching the school and grad school. And so we just got one contract, and I wanted to test it. One, just to see if anybody would pay me, frankly. And two, to see if we could help them and add value. And then after that one contract, we've been able to stack it and build it. And we've gotten much, much smarter and much more strategic than we were back in contract one.
Okay. I like it. And I like how you speak to in consulting. Sometimes it can feel like it's just the advice and it's not helping us move to that execution phase, or, like you said, building that capacity. I know your tagline is strategic implementation for a better tomorrow. Talk to me a little bit about what that phrase means to you.
Yeah. Like I said, we try to stay away from the C word inside SchermCo. This is where I say no offense to any consultants in your friends or family network or those listening to the podcast, but we really want to differentiate ourselves and be really focused on implementation. So I think a lot of what partnerships look like for us is less consultative, less advice giving, and more capacity building, more strategic testing, and more implementing solutions during a partnership to make sure it's really going to work than after a partnership. And so oftentimes in a strategic planning project with a group, we're helping them test an earned revenue model. We're helping them actively recruit board members during the partnership, interviewing the board members, make sure they're a good fit. If they're not a good fit, tell them to peace out, that sort of stuff. And so it's less around kind of documenting stuff, telling people what to do, leaving, making it look pretty, piecing out, and hoping like half of it gets done. With permission and with partnership of the client, we're actively working side by side to implement a lot of these solutions based upon the findings early on from our strategy and our analysis.
That's cool. I like it. Talk to me about the work that you're doing, like in workforce development and support in that area. I know that's a super interesting area for our audience in particular, folks working with workforce readiness and things like that in the community. Tell me some of the work you're doing in that space.
Yeah, sure. So we, a few thoughts. It's a fairly new portfolio for us. Let's say 24 to 36 months, so a few years old. But, we really, as many of your listeners and it's not too different from education, right? It's kind of like one kind of step removed from K-12 education or junior college or traditional four-year school or something else. But we started with one project with the city of Charlotte, essentially helping them manage like a $3 million ARPA grant. We then partner with Urban League and Goodwill here in Charlotte to essentially help them use that $3 million to stand up HVAC training programs so that we could create those trainings free of charge for residents that were negatively affected by COVID. And so we kind of did some strategy, project management, but oversaw that project. Started with one cohort, got 60 people trained and graduated, and 90% of people were still working 6 months after. And then from that, we scaled it to do it for 3 years and ended up helping train, support, and place more than 300 residents into sustainable wage jobs across Charlotte. And so with that and like really good partnerships with Urban League and Goodwill in the city, we've been able to grow. And one pretty exciting thing that will be, maybe this will be a little bit of breaking news for the audience first before we put it out anywhere else. The city of Charlotte's, breaking news, add in like the audio clip, the audio sounds. The city of Charlotte's never formally had an office of workforce development. And so it's always kind of been like a few people up underneath economic development. Luckily, a few years ago, the city council and mayor named it a top priority. They then opened the office of workforce development. They then tapped a really incredible leader, Danielle Frazier, who's leading that office. Danielle was fortunate, and we were fortunate that she tapped us. And so we've just wrapped up building the first ever strategic plan for the workforce development office here in the city of Charlotte, which will technically be the first ever workforce plan ever approved in the history of the city of Charlotte. And so there's more coming with that, but really excited to kind of be in this space to use our access and our strategies, but also to connect a lot of the lessons learned and contacts in education to workforce readiness and training, knowing how important that continuum will always be.
Man, that's major, Greg. Congrats to you and the team.
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, congrats to the city of Charlotte for having that. And that's I find it very interesting that there was no like governing body for the workforce development prior to this. That's
it's what I'd say. And to be fair, right, we have like NC Works and like Charlotte Works, like the workforce boards, like that group has been there and still doing great work, and will continue to be a strong partner. This was the first time the city, so, in some cities, they kind of contracted out to the workforce development boards and whatnot. But I think in the cities we studied that are far and away or maybe more advanced in the workforce development space is most of them had both. So they had a workforce development board and either a separate secondary office in the city or county based upon local government structures. And again, I think, as you know, Sylvester and many others, usually not one office of 10 people can solve all workforce development needs in a big ass city like Charlotte or Jacksonville or St. Louis or something else. Yeah. And so if we invest more and we invest more intentionally, then groups like this new office that's created, the Workforce Development Board, Foundation, others just have more capacity, more strategies, and more insights to be ready to prepare to connect local residents to trainings, to job opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really about building coalitions and systems building to make sure we as a community have the right supports and enough supports to support job seekers and also employers.
How do you see the city as it relates to the workforce development organization connecting and working with like the school system to train more people, like similar ideas with the HVAC and things like that?
Yep. So many opportunities. Luckily, the city's been really strategic for many years and have had like a number of really powerful youth programs that they already operate. So they have a group called a program called the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, which is a summer paid internship. But with the connectivity and the launch of this office, they've recently started a program called Education to Employment, which is for juniors and seniors in high school that get access to paid internships through the city of Charlotte. And then, so they're paid, it's either after school or during the summer, et cetera, et cetera. Those kids graduate high school, and then assuming everything goes well, they're offered full-time benefits somewhere between $35,000 to $45,000 a year, full-time apprenticeship jobs within the city. And they've done a really nice job. You know, like I said, I grew up playing sports. I think you did too, but they did like a big signing day where they put on the City of Charlotte hats. They signed their contract. They had the press release. They had like their press and everything else.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And the kids feel obviously celebrated, and they have like real big jobs one day after graduating high school. So that program will continue to grow in a number of different areas. And I think while also introducing additional data in terms of in-demand industries and jobs bands, we're then able to help influence the local school system to either make sure, one, curriculum changes and opportunity changes, whether it's in CTE or something else, but that there's just clear awareness, and two, pipelines of that awareness to get from high school graduation to job, or high school graduation to community college or four-year college or something else. But I think probably what you've seen or what others have seen in the CTE space is just like the lack of awareness and the lack of opportunity. So if we can solve for creating more awareness, and if we can solve for creating more very clear pathways to opportunity, those two things and strategies connected, I think will go a really long way for a lot of the supports, both on the student side and also the young adult side.
I like how you said that, and you're spot on the awareness and the opportunities there. You're a strategy guy. Give me someone who's listening right now working on awareness for a new program. Any ideas, best practices on strategy to increase awareness of programming?
Oh, man. Well, I think first in something like this, what we'd often do is help a client or this person define what awareness looks like. And so first thing that comes to my mind, Sylvester, is if it's a brand new program and you were talking about awareness, we could define the right KPI as more email subscribers. We could define awareness as more Twitter followers. We could describe awareness as like the number of podcasts we get you on to draw awareness to your program. So based upon kind of the maturity or the stage of the organization, the stage of the leader, the sort of awareness we're trying to bring to you, I think would depend on how we define it, and like then backwards plan from there. And so it could be that, but also knowing many are nonprofits, likely awareness means dollars. And so if we need to get really clear on how many dollars we're bringing in, we need to get clear on if it's individual donors, if it's traditional corporate donation, if it's foundations, like what are we specifically trying to do? And then how are we going to get there in like a very clear, practical, backwards planning manner? So that won't be a silver bullet, and that won't like make any go from 0 to 100 tomorrow. But I think we found in this space, people say things like scale and growth and sustainability. But then when you ask, like, what does that mean? Usually people start getting a little weird because they haven't defined it yet. And so I think when we can at least help them in a respectful way define it, whether it's right or wrong, just like put a stake in the ground, then we can go backwards from there.
Yeah, I appreciate that I know that about you from working with you in the org, like identifying the KPIs so that like we can make something that is measurable, that's relevant and measurable. So I think I feel like a lot of times that gets lost in that conversation of what you just said. If you move to the opportunity side, like that other part, I'm curious, give me some good KPIs for increasing opportunity, how you just were talking about. I'm curious what you would have to say about that.
Put me on the spot today. I think, again, if it's back to programmatic, like if it's a Show Me the World group, right? It's like the opportunity we're we're going for and the right one that's going to kind of move the needle. And so if it's, the number of students we're looking to serve, and let's say we got to serve 100, we probably got to reach out to 500 to get down to that 100 to make sure that the right fit, it works for their schedule, they kind of are eligible or they meet our eligibility requirements in that way, right? So I think pretty similar. It's kind of like a strategic line of thinking, whether it's opportunity or awareness, finding those KPIs in a really specific way. And then being able to step back and say, okay, like team, like, SchermCo team, client team, do these KPIs feel right? If so, let's move forward and build the strategies to hit the KPIs. If not, let's pause, reassess, find a different KPI, and then start going. And that way, I think it gets us really clear on then how we spend our time, how the client spends their time, and then the benchmarks along the way to show progress.
Yeah, I everything you're saying is like, now you're taking me back to our strategy sessions with you and your and your team, which I love. That it's like no, you challenge. I think that may be why some people, some orgs may just hire, and I'm not saying this about you, but hire a consulting firm or something, because they don't really want to do the work. They just want to just look at it. But no, you are pushing to say, identify this stuff, like what really matters, what's important, so that you can move to execution. As it relates to, our org, Show Me the World, working with you, I know now you're doing some different things with family empowerment as it's connected to the SchermCo Foundation. Talk to me about how the work you're doing between those two right there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So for a long time, our family empowerment initiative started really in teens, so 2 years after maybe quote unquote SchermCo was launched. Mm-hmm. And essentially, at the core of our model, Sylvester, is we are helping schools and organizations collect data from families. Okay. And then leveraging that data to bring resources into the school or into the organization of that group that's supporting families. And so we're often doing kind of surveys. We then use that surveys. We kind of run it through our data system. We build data dashboards and then say, hey, school A, you have 1,000 students enrolled, 30% or 300, give or take, families completed the surveys. Here's what 150 of those 300 said they wanted in terms of how they need support to be a better academic supporter at home. Here are the academic resources we can provide for families to help their learner. Mm-hmm. And also here's what they're looking for on a personal front. 300 of the 300 are looking for mental health services, or 100 are looking for sustainable housing. And then knowing schools aren't equipped to do all those things, it's my team's job to find those resources, build those community partners, and then bring those resources directly into the schools so that families have access to that information and those resources. And so that's essentially what we do 4 to 5 times throughout the year at each school. Last year, we hosted 82 data-driven family empowerment events, had a little over 11,000 attendees, and have some additional data, 200 families completed financial literacy courses. We had 150 families fill out and complete First Down home buyer program, assistance program information. So that's the specific stuff we're doing at a sustainability level that was previously under the for-profit and wasn't great to be charging schools and wasn't smart sustainability wise. So we launched the foundation, which is a separate organization from SchermCo, to run that, to build a board, to raise money so we didn't have to charge schools very much, and that we could still raise money to support that work moving forward. And so at a systems level or a macro level, I'm technically leading both organizations about building sustainability to hand that work off to other leaders to lead the foundation solo.
Impressive, man. That's impressive. Give me, I want to hear a case study, man. Give me someone who's really been transformed, if you can, by your work in terms of maybe an education organization or school system or school district who's really had a great impact from SchermCo.
Well, where I will always say we're fortunate to work with a number of innovative leaders and organizations, and we don't take sole credit for anything that happens. We're just happy to be a part, to provide some capacity, to provide some support and some strategy to help them get from A to B. And so whatever's about to come out of my mouth, I want to make sure everybody hears we're not taking full credit for anything, is number one. I'll give you 2 quick examples. There's a school we worked with on the family empowerment front that principal was a little tough. You're we've tried parent nights, doesn't work. I was like, well, here's a comprehensive model, et cetera, et cetera. First year, they had 10% of families complete surveys, and not many families showed up. But we stay with us, things get better. Mm-hmm. By year 3, they had 100% survey completion rate from families in a Title I school. They've had more than 80% of families come to at least one family empowerment event throughout the year. They've increased academic achievement by 2 grade levels, and they've reduced chronic absenteeism by 15%. And again, there's a lot of people at the plate, a lot of people around the table, so it's not all of our credit, but we've been really excited to just see that work and also just see the belief reopen up with a lot of leaders we get to work with in schools like that. In the second piece on the workforce development side.
Hold on. You can't just jump over that. That's
okay. My bad.
You going to that? I've got 9 follow-up questions. I have to at least ask one. Okay. So sure. Talk to me. That sounds like that group started with some really heavy problems. Where do you start? In a situation like that, where there are so many things potentially going wrong, we're struggling with this and this. How do you pick a starting point in an organization like that? How do you help them with that from a strategy standpoint?
Yeah, well, first we start with just belief and mindset. Even before we agree to work with a partner, we want to make sure they have the right mindset about families and kids and community. And I think most people in this work do, but some of them have had tough experiences, or some have tried stuff and they get kind of disillusioned by what's possible and what's not. So first, we always want to be really clear around the work that we know is possible, but also that we need the beliefs and the mindsets and the actions to follow that, with really what we call an asset-based thinking, to know we're going to do our best to support the families no matter how they show up at our schools or with the schools we're working with. So it's always first. The second part then is the second thing is we then leverage parent voice and parent data. And so oftentimes, Sylvester, what we've seen in schools or principals that are maybe skeptical of us, which they should be, is we have curriculum night, but families don't show up. And then we ask, did you ask families when curriculum night? It works for them.
Right.
Did you ask if they're working a second job? Did you ask if they'd prefer Tuesday or Thursdays?
Yeah.
Did you ask if they'd prefer curriculum night at night or curriculum breakfast based upon their work schedule?
Yeah.
Did you ask what sort of curriculum they want to know or where they need support? Did you think about not calling it curriculum night because that's boring as hell? Can we call it something else? Right. So it's how do we center data and ask the parents?
Yeah.
And then once we have a sample size of data, if we then use that data and respond to it with exactly what parents are asking for, and if 100 parents say we need housing support, and within 30 days we stand up a housing event based upon the data we get back, I promise you families are going to show up.
Yeah.
And then at the housing event, if we ask families what they want next to support their kids, and they're I would really love 3rd grade reading strategies. And if you do that within 60 days, families will show up because they asked for support for 3rd grade reading strategies. And so let's not overthink it. Let's use data and honor the voices and the lived experiences of the people we're trying to serve, and give them what they're asking for in a timely manner, and families will show up.
That's so good, Greg. You're making me think about something I heard from Jeff Bezos, who he talks about being customer obsessed, obsessed with the customer. Then you don't have to worry about what the competition is doing. Is like you're saying, how can we better serve our audience, better serve the parents? What do they want? What do they need? And then, like you said, you'll more than likely you'll have much higher buy to what it is that you're trying to get across. Yeah.
And look, let me talk bad about myself for a minute. It's not all roses and sunshine, right? It won't happen overnight, but with commitment and dedication. And then we've been fortunate to, as we raise enough money, we feed every family that shows up to every event. We pay for that. We also partner with Lyft and pay for their transportation. So if they're not within a walking zone, we provide door-to-door service. We send the families a code. The families use that code. They type it in the Lyft. They get free door-to-door service from home to the school and back for every event. And then we do those things over and over and over again. And so again, it's not going to happen tomorrow if a school leader wants to call my bluff and try this tomorrow. It won't be super great tomorrow. But if you stack them and you keep doing it and keep honoring families and their data, we've been doing it for 9.5 years now, and it's never always perfect, but it always gets better. And families always appreciate the effort and the resources that we're able to help and partner with the school to provide as a collective unit.
Yeah, I like it. Is that part of the 1% reinvestment that SchermCo makes into like the communities that you serve? I know that's important to you as well.
No, good question. That is separate. And so the Shermco Cares initiative comes from the LLC. And so through that, like if we partner with, a really innovative group like Show Me the World, and we do a partnership together, whatever you guys pay us for support, we reinvest 1% of that back into a community organization of your choice. So that comes from the LLC. That comes from our belief in like doing well and doing good and also paying it forward. And a minor thought, but I think still important, is that we make that donation on your behalf. And so we ask you, what other groups do you look to? What groups do you want to support? We write the check, but it comes in your name because we just believe in paying it forward and doing good and sharing the wealth with others.
That's good, Greg. I see why you're having success, man. You're actually like a good person, man. You're doing the work, man. You care, man. You're doing the work, and it really shows. Like from all the organizations I know you've worked with and helped, like you say, not taking the credit, but who I know that you've helped increase their capacity and grow and further their mission. My last question, man. This is what I ask everyone. What's your vision for the future of career in tech education?
I would say access and innovation. I think so much of CTE continues to be accessible, but even more, it could even be more accessible. And I think less about the CTE space and more just about creating access for our high school babies that need it the most, or our non-traditional learners that need it the most, to be really clear about what's possible and what's not. And I think through creating that access and clarity, we can do that. And then I think having to always innovate, right? And so whether it's, CTE focused on AI training programs or AI modules, or CTE programs thinking more about like embedding personal finance and like soft skills or essential skills into students outside of just like quote unquote CTE assets and responsibilities. And so I think off the whim, if we can hold both of those things true in an ideal world as we think about the future of CTE, I think hopefully if we innovate enough, but also make sure access is there, then we'll really hit the true mission of what CTE stands for.
Very well said, man. Greg, I appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom, your insights, and do a little on-the-spot strategy session there with me. But for those who are listening who may want work or support with strategic planning, workforce development, any of the family stuff that you're doing, where should they go to check you out?
Yeah, thank you. Hit us up. Our website is just sherm.co. That will take you to all of our social medias, but we're on everything, Instagram, all the social stuff, just at SchermCo. And so hit us up, send us a note. We offer a free consultation no matter what, just to chat and get to know people. And even if we don't work together, it's always great just to learn what other people are thinking about, how they're approaching solving some of these most pressing strategies and challenges in the social impact space. So hit us up. Happy to chat. I'm happy to learn more about what people are working on.
Absolutely. And we'll tag all of that information in the show notes, and also find Greg on LinkedIn for sure there. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't be selfish. Share it with a friend or colleague who needs to hear this. So many great resources and insights were shared today. Till the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.